Hi, Misha here, and this is unscheduled Blackbox, although there's really no schedule to them. And I had something I kind of wanted to talk about, a little bit anyway. Gunbroker. And today when I'm recording this, which is July 26th, they sent out an email this morning saying that they were going to start charging what they called a compliance fee. And they were rather vague about what exactly this is and how much it'll be. So I wanted to talk about that specifically, Gunbroker more generally, and companies and how they manage their finances in 21st century American business. So yeah, let me get a sip of tea and we'll get to it and join the cicadas for a minute. Been a long, hot day. So far, this is the hottest week we've had all year in the 90s. My hometown's supposed to be getting up near 100. We're relatively cool at around 92 to 94, but with the humidity level, ugh, I don't like it. I'm not a hot weather person. Anyway, yeah, the compliance fee. Now this is all kind of speculation right this moment because we just don't really know. And I'm sure it'll be clarified soon, but what they say is this is a fee being charged because of recent legislation by the states and gun rights and privacy things and fees claiming it's additional money they're having to pay. And they say that it will be assessed at checkout and paid by the buyer, which is kind of screwing the buyer. It's kind of like a buyer's premium. But on the other hand, it is to be collected by the seller. And this means that if everything goes fine, the buyer's paying extra money, the seller has to handle it, and then Gunbroker bills the seller's credit card for the fee. But if it's a non-paying bidder, that's just one more fee that has to be given back to the seller after 30 to 60 days, however long it takes. And this is on top of other stuff. Going back, I signed up to Gunbroker in May of 2009. That was after I returned to the USA. Before that, years gone by, early mid-2000s, I used auctionarms.com, a couple other things, and Gunbroker really kind of came to preeminence after it. So I signed up there and started selling on there, and yeah, originally their fees were quite reasonable, actually quite a bit lower than eBay's, and they were just a middleman, basically an auction site or an advertisement site. And you could relist stuff ad nauseum until it's sold, so on and so forth. They took a very small percentage, depending, and it was kind of a sliding scale. They would take, for example, 3-4% on under $100, 2.5-3% up to $500, and 2% over $1,000. You get the idea. So that way, if you sold a $10,000 gun, they might only take 1.5%, but of course, to them, it's just as much effort to host a $10,000 item as it is a $10 item. So it makes sense. And there were some listing fees and stuff you could do, but there was no fee to relist and all that. Well, here, a couple of years back, they revamped the website, went to a newer one. A lot of people didn't like it. And then more recently, last year, they went to a newer website that very few people that I've talked to, if any, like. A lot of them hate it. And Gunbroker paid literally millions of dollars to create this website that people don't like. Then they stopped doing free relist. They will let you relist an auction for 90 days, but then after that, you have to pay again to relist it. Then they raised their rates, not significantly, not something like 3% up to 8. It was like 3% up to 4 or 4 up to 5. It went up a little bit. I'm sure someone can check online and see, but the fees went up a bit. Okay, fair enough. They also added more listing options, meaning optional fees you can pay at listing, like extended title and all that. That's cool, that's fine, because it's optional. But where they really screwed everyone, including themselves, before the purchase, the actual money changing hands was between buyer and seller. Gunbroker was the middleman. After the auction concluded and everyone had each other's contact info, Gunbroker stepped away. How the buyer paid the seller was kind of up to them. Now, originally, for many years, there wasn't even an integrated credit card checkout on Gunbroker. You just contacted the seller and let them know how you're paying. Then a few years ago, Gunbroker started letting you do your credit card, your merchant services as a gateway on their website. Okay, fair enough, because it's still through you or your merchant, not Gunbroker. But then last year, Gunbroker started doing bid pay or Gunbroker pay or gun pay or whatever they call it. Basically, like eBay, they started collecting money themselves. So instead of paying the buyer directly, instead of paying the seller directly, the buyer would pay Gunbroker, and then Gunbroker would pay the seller, kind of acting as a middleman. That meant now Gunbroker is effectively the commerce agent here, kind of putting the seller in a bizarre position, frankly. Who are you really buying from at that point? Anyway, and that led to our situation this year where now Gunbroker is classified by governments as a marketplace, an online marketplace like Amazon and eBay, because now they are directly handling payments. Now, I am not signed up for Gunbroker Pay, and I won't. But nevertheless, because it is an option, now they have to collect sales tax unless someone's exempt, or in case you're lucky in one of like 6 or 8 states that don't do it. And that's the crazy part. It's kind of a state-by-state thing. And it's led to a lot of issues. For example, their automated system was charging tax on the shipping, but you're not supposed to do that. And little snafus like that. Either way, not having to pay sales tax was a giant incentive. You know, on Amazon, when you're buying relatively cheap things, it's tax, whatever. Kind of made up for by free shipping through Prime. You can't really offer free shipping with firearms because firearms cost too much to ship. I mean, you can offer it, but then the seller is eating the cost and has to raise it. One way or the other, it's a lot more to ship a gun than it is, say, a pair of underwear from Amazon. So yeah, and the same thing goes with the price. You know, that pair of underwear, if you're buying nice ones, you know, a few bucks, fine, whatever. Tax on that. You're buying a gun, even a cheap gun, $300, and a lot of people go on Gunbroker not to buy cheap guns because they can get those at their local brick and mortar. They go on to Gunbroker to buy the rare guns, the collectible guns. So taxes really add up. This is already hurting us. This on top of them raising their fees and not doing auto relists, and now they announced this compliance fee. Here's my thought. Why? Gunbroker had to have made an ass ton of money last year during COVID and all the gun buying. Plus, again, they have raised their fees. Where did that money go? And this is something I see with a lot of American businesses. When they get a big payday, the money just seems to kind of go. It doesn't get directly reinvested into the business in a good practical way. They seem, or maybe they give bonuses to other, but I don't know, it just seems like a business will be doing really well, and then they go from boom times to not even bust times, but just leaner times, and then they're on hard times. And I think it's because we're in a world where your success is not measured by how much you're selling, how much profit you're making, how much money you've got in the bank. In a weird way, your success is measured by how much you're buying and how much credit you've got open. Honestly, how much you're spending. That actually happened to not an outfit my wife worked for, but worked with during a related company. A local furniture chain had, let's say, 10 locations, and then they bought 10 more in the area, so kind of mortgaging all that out. And then COVID hit, and because they had all that capital stretched to buy more, and then the downturn in the market, now they're closed. Now they're all gone. So they went from having 10 places, wanting to have 20, to 0. And I told her even when they did this, and this was a couple of years before COVID happened, I said, this isn't going to end well. I could understand them wanting to buy 2 more stores, even maybe 5, but to just go like that, spin, that seems rash. And that's what American businesses do. They have all this money, but then they piss it away. And I just have to wonder. And you saw this after all these gun panics. You know, there was the 08-09 panic. And then there was a reduction, not a thing. And then after Sandy Hook, and then of course the Trump slump in 2017-18, a lot of businesses went under. One outfit I really liked was Lou Horton. They went under in 2019. And they've been selling guns like crazy. And I just wonder, where did the money go? I know it cost a lot to do things, but there's an old adage that I grew up with about don't spend money you don't have. And if you make good money, yeah, spend some of it on yourself. Why not? A little bonus here, a little bonus there, keeps the spirit going good. And, you know, invest some in the business, you know, buying new computers or doing all this stuff. But maybe just stick some back in a savings account for a rainy day. And I know that's overly simplified, and businesses would say this, oh, they've got all these spreadsheets and predictions and charts. Yeah, but sometimes that stuff is just wrong. Sometimes just a little bit of common sense in that way goes a long way. In other words, maybe they should pull their heads out of their asses when it comes to this, because American business is kind of failing. Another thing, too, these days, they don't invest in their employees, and therefore employees are not invested in who they work for. Even when I was a kid, people would start off at a company and kind of, even they might jump jobs a couple of times in their lives, but nowadays, in middle management, white-collar America, people jump jobs every 1 to 3 years. So if they've been in the game for 20 years, shoot, they have, I don't know, 8, 10, a dozen different places they work for, and that's considered good. But I don't know, there's kind of the other way around it too. But that's just me and how I think, but it doesn't seem to be serving anyone very well. It's not serving these businesses long term. It seems like they're so focused on making the next quarter look good that they're not worried about the next year, 5 years, 10 years, and no one plans for 20 years anymore. And likewise, employees, they can't really count on their future. They don't know where they're going to be. A big salary is great, but if you aren't going to be getting it in the next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, can you really go buy that nice house or, you know, other things? It's, at least in my mind, again, don't spend money you don't have. And but yeah, Gunbroker, I just have to wonder. Now, they did get bought out, and so these changes are not surprising. And again, they're putting a lot of money into these slick, modern websites trying to compete with eBay, but I think they're forgetting that gun people tend to be, well, conservative by nature, and they don't like change, and you get a lot of people that are older, and yeah, you're not appealing to them. I just have to wonder. I love to see the statistics, the analytics, the data. Are they really getting that many more people? Are they retaining them? Are they making money? I know there's been a lot of non-paying bidders people have reported lately. That's not good for Gunbroker, just like it's not good for a seller. So in a way, I have to wonder if this compliance fee, if it turns out to be anything, might just be the turning point for Gunbroker. They've kind of been top dog for well over a decade for firearms auction sites, but you know, they weren't the first one, and they weren't the only one. This could be it, because this would give room for a new person to have a startup and kind of go back to basics and not get caught up in the taxation and the escalating cost of websites. You don't need a lot of fanciness just to get people to buy guns. Trust me. I mean, people want the gun. You don't have to make it real complicated. just, you know, be honest about it and have a website that's safe for buyers where they know they can spend their money without getting ripped off, and also safe for sellers where they know if someone puts a bid in, it's for real. You know, they can count on it. And Gunbroker is getting shakier and shakier with more and more fees, and I don't know, the buyout seems to be the culprit. First I would have said it was the new website, which I think has a lot to do with it, but then the buyout on top of it, I don't know. But in general, I just don't quite get corporate America today, and I think the main thing is they just don't have a lot of long-term planning, long-term projection. They're just focused on the short term, 1 year out at most. And it's hard to really have a good strategy, a good plan when you are just focused on the numbers looking good on papers for your next report. But of course that's what happens when your employees cycle in and out. I mean, if you know you're not going to be there 5 years later, why do you care what that company is going to be doing in 5 years? Heck, even the CEOs might switch in and out between that time. So I'm not really blaming them, but that's kind of what happens when you don't have that level of connection. And it's certainly a two-way street. I know that a lot of companies treat their employees quite poorly, but also a lot of employees don't seem as dedicated as maybe they once could have been. But I know a lot of them do work hard. And around here I know, and this goes not just for business, but like say law firms, when you're starting off, they might offer you a sweet salary of $150,000, but then you realize you're working 70, 80 hours a week, and then you kind of break it down by the hour, and yeah, the pay's still okay, but yeah, there's a reason a 40-hour work week was kind of made the norm. That's kind of that work-life balance, because 40 hours a week, you're working 1/3 of a day, sleeping 1/3, and have 1/3 for other things, and then 2 days weekend. It is a very logical system. I mean, maybe 35 would be even better, European style, I don't know, but yeah, 60, 70, 80 hours all the time is crazy. Life's too short for that, frankly, and I don't know, not my bag though. A lot of people will worry themselves into an early grave over that. So yeah, I just wanted to make this quick Blackbox because I'm concerned about the future of Gunbroker, and if they're going to keep, raising fees over and over and over, at some point people are going to quit buying. Ever since they started charging taxes, I've already noticed a downturn quite a bit. And with the end of kind of the COVID panic buying, for the most part, it's only going to get worse. But at the same time, businesses, Gunbroker, gun shops, made a lot of money last year, and hopefully they hung on to some of it to kind of tide them through the slim times that might be coming. I think if they did, they'll be fine. But if they just spent it all on bonuses or, investing in silly things, which is kind of what happened in 2016, everyone thought Hillary would win and Trump would lose, and so they bought just ass loads of ARs thinking, oh, it happened before in 2008 and 2012, so I'm going to be smart. The problem is those times people didn't buy, so the few gun shops that had a ton of ARs and AKs cleaned up. But even if Hillary had won, if every gun shop had a ton of them, yeah, there would be a kind of a little bit of a spike, but not anything major. But she didn't win, and so a lot of these gun shops were just stuck with guns that they frankly paid too much for, and very few people wanted, and some of them it took them years to get rid of. But that's just kind of getting ahead of the trends and not being a follower. Not just because what happened in the past, that doesn't really matter. You need to kind of worry what's coming in the future and kind of get that thing. But that's why I like imports. So what do you think? Again, this is a new development. It'll be interesting to see what really happens here with this. Maybe it's nothing. I hope it's nothing. But I'm already not happy with the Gunbroker website. It's very difficult for me to use with my TTS. And I don't know. We will see, folks. But at any rate, it's a hot old evening. So with that, I'm going to get off here and get back to doing something else. Appreciate you tuning in. Please let me know your thoughts on this. These are just kind of my stream of consciousness ramblings, guys. These aren't scripted. It's just, you know, I had a couple of things I wanted to say, get off the top of my head, help myself think. So let me know if you think I'm right, wrong, whatever. And I'd love to hear your perspective, because sometimes that helps me kind of understand my own more. This is Misha, and I'll catch you very soon next time.